'Cause if I'd spent $100 on Bitcoin 13 years ago, I'd now have 50 million bucks. That's actually how much it's grown. Instead, I just wrote songs about how Bitcoin was a fad. So right now, someone's on an island, swimming naked in a hot tub full of cash that overlooks the sea. And it's not me.
What's going on, guys? K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a great day today. So yes, we finally had Bitcoin hit $100,000. It has been quite a long journey, but yes, it did in fact happen. So Donald Trump he says, Bitcoiners 100,000, you're welcome. Together we will make America great again. Now, if we actually come over here and we look at what was happening on the chart, this was an insane candle that we had right here. This thing right here, where you kind of have the body right here and it goes all the way up, all the way down, we actually call that the Darth Maul because, yeah, there's a lot of liquidation. So, you know, obviously, guys, just straight up, if you are using leverage, this is why you really don't want to go higher than like 3 to 5x, because anything after that, it just starts to get into like very dangerous sort of gambling territory. So, you know, just be careful with that, guys. But I mean, as you can see right here, that was an insane, you know, almost, 14% drop. And then it basically got bought back up and we're still sitting above the band right here. And what's crazy is if you had just simply taken, you know, these levels that we talked about. Remember, we had talked about the $102,000 level, and then we also had the 0.786 at around 90. And if you look at this weekly candle, those are the areas exactly where we bounced, right? I mean, it went 2,000 above it. I'm sorry, yeah, 2,000 above it and 2,000 below it. So, I mean, basically, if you just put your, you know, your sell at 102 and your buy at 90, you could have actually technically sniped that whole move. But yeah, anyway, guys, this is why, you know, we were saying that this is what exactly was to be expected. And apparently there was a big logo of Bitcoin on the Las Vegas Sphere. I don't know, this could be AI generated. But, you know, again, when Bitcoin was at 16,000, nobody wanted to buy. And now that it's at 100,000, you know, everybody is coming out and they want to buy again, which is why I say, you know, when people tell you that you got lucky, you know, you just happen to be in the right place, right time, it's like, well, we had the Mt. Gox crash, the China ban, the ICO crash, the pandemic crash, the FTX crash, and I think this is basically just an oversimplification, really, of all the crashes that we had. So let's see, what else happened while I was gone? Tuah girl made a coin, and I guess it says the team and insiders have been selling the token, and it was like a rug or something. So, you know, honestly, I'm not saying that like she did this specifically. It could have been something out of her hands, the team. But again, guys, like, what was anyone expecting from investing in Hawk coin? I mean, I don't know, what were people hoping was actually going to happen in that scenario? So I want to talk about a whole bunch of things today. I want to talk about the strategic Bitcoin reserve, what could potentially happen. Also, you got guys like Schiff, literally been saying don't buy Bitcoin since it was $1, you know, pretty much getting publicly shamed at this point. And, you know, side note, I can tell that the excitement is back because the last video I made, we were around about 947 NFTs, and now there's only 928 left. So if you guys want to trade with meta signals, which obviously you get all of this for life, it's a proven statistical trading and you know, algorithm that I wouldn't use blindly, but I would definitely use in conjunction with your TA because it has about a 70% hit rate, guys. So, and again, if you are looking to trade decentralized, check out Antarctic. They're going to go live in about a month, and you definitely want to get some of these tokens, you know, before they do. But I was just having a look at this, just really quickly, guys, before we get into the news. So we have the Bitcoin chart, and if you notice, Bitcoin tends to have, you know, obviously we don't have a lot of history to go by, but usually, you know, we get a red candle and then we get 3 green candles. So this is every single year for Bitcoin. So red candle, 3 green, red candle, 3 green, red candle. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think history is going to repeat again? Because if that's the case, we could have a lot more of this ride to officially go for Bitcoin. So this is the crazy thing. So Bitcoin is now the 7th largest asset in the world, okay? And if it gets to 186,000, it would actually surpass Apple. So, I mean, it's getting hard for people not to notice this thing. You know what I mean? Like you can't ignore it anymore. I mean, it's literally starting to make its presence everywhere. In fact, right here, the US Treasury, you can see right here, actually refers to Bitcoin now as digital gold. So even the US Treasury is admitting like, no, this actually is something. You know, this product actually has some kind of a purpose. And, you know, here's the interesting thing. If you think about Bitcoin's journey from 10 to 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, now the question is, I mean, I know, right? We just got to 100,000 and now everyone's like, yeah, what about 1 million though? So how long would it realistically take? I mean, I don't know, if we just kind of looked at diminishing returns. This is just for fun. I'm not saying that this is when Bitcoin's going to go to 1 million. I have been saying it's going to go to 1 million at some point in our lifetime. And and when I say my lifetime, I think within the next 15 years, for sure, maybe sooner. But Jevy pointed out that if you look at the historical Bitstamp price, from $100 to 1,000, it took 241 days. So that didn't even take a year. From 1,000 to 10,000, it took 1,462. From 10,000 to 100,000, 2,563. So if the trend holds, if we keep going this way, that would be 981 days, roughly, until $1 million. So that means that we could see possibly $1 million Bitcoin on August 13th of 2027. So again, you know, is this going to happen? Who knows? But, you know, if you had asked somebody, okay, so, you know, 24, so that's 5, 6, 7, so 3 years ago, you know, is Bitcoin going to 100,000 when it was 16K, you know, or something, 20K, they would have said, no, it's not going to 100,000, right? But it did. So, you know, 1 million is only a 10X from here. Bitcoin 10X is on a Thursday. You know what I mean? So, you know, if you are even just getting in right now, the idea of dollar cost averaging over the next 3 years to potentially have 1 million, or you could buy Hawk Tuah coin. That's totally up to you. I mean, you know, for me, I think the answer is pretty obvious. You know, you even have $7 trillion Charles Schwab saying that he feels silly for not buying.
You know, we never like to judge what people want to invest in. People on our platform, we think, are very thoughtful investors, very sharp. They make decisions about what they want to invest in, and crypto has certainly caught many's attention, and they've made a lot of money doing it. I have not bought crypto, and now I feel silly. So they've been the ones making all this money.
So this is exactly what I'm talking about, where these people can no longer ignore it. I actually was cracking up when I watched this clip. I have to play it. So Joe Amato, he's from this, I don't know, Neuberger Berman. I've never heard of them, but I guess they're some kind of financial advisors. He was over on Squawk Box, or on CNBC, and Joe Kiernan, like, he literally just looks at him and he's just like, you missed it.
I've been a skeptic over the years because of some of the things that you just quoted Powell on in terms of its store of value. It's not a currency equivalent, right? It is a speculative asset. And we say be very, very careful. Be very careful. We don't have it in client assets right now. There are ways to play it through the exchanges. But certainly it's getting the attention, and we're getting lots of questions about it.
40% since the election, but 60% ARR for 15 years, or 10 or 15 years. So, I mean, you've missed it.
We have missed that.
Yeah.
You know who else really dropped the ball on all of his followers is Peter Schiff. Peter Schiff, he says, it looks like, oh, by the way, this was from November 8th of 2019. I was in crypto for a few years already at this time. Him, Nouriel Roubini, all these guys would always be hating on crypto. He says, it looks like the Bitcoin pump is finally over. Get ready for the dump. November 8th, 2019. Rhythm says, Bitcoin dumps 25%. I told you it would dump. Bitcoin drops from 100,000 to 75,000. He's joking, right? And then Peter Schiff responds and says, keep dreaming. Bitcoin is never going to hit 100,000. Well, 5 years later, it did. I mean, we're witnessing it right now. And, you know, Fred Krueger confronted him over on, I believe this was Crypto Banter, and I mean, like, how, like, you're still gonna just have this story, Peter? It's okay. It's okay to be wrong, Peter.
Disagree that they got rich by buying a store of value. They did not.
You have investors, you have people who listen to you, and those people have underperformed Bitcoin by a massive
Everybody
amount.
has underperformed Bitcoin. Well, I mean, what difference does that make?
It makes a difference between you're in the wrong asset. That's the problem. Okay. Literally, you're being paid to provide financial advice, and you're giving really bad financial advice. Your track record is the worst track record, literally, of any person in the world. Because I don't know anybody who's been negative on Bitcoin since Bitcoin $1. I don't know a
just
single
because
person
I'm telling
who's
people
been
not to buy
consistently.
Bitcoin. There are a lot of other people professionals in the financial services that don't tell people to go out and buy Bitcoin.
I mean, like Lynn Alden pointed out, down here, it's just a speculative bubble. Okay, so it's 20,000, and it goes all the way up to 70. It's just from stimulus and zero interest rates. Now we're up at 100. It's just from the election and, the lobbying and stuff like that. Okay, and also the fact that the Bitcoin ETF was the most successful ETF launch of all time. In fact, as of today, the US spot ETFs right here, you can see hold 1.1 million plus Bitcoin, which actually puts them now officially higher than Satoshi Nakamoto, Binance, MicroStrategy, the US government, etc. So yeah, I would say that was a pretty successful launch. And, of course, we're not saying that Bitcoin, needed the ETF or Bitcoin needed the approval of, Trump or whatever. It was doing just fine without them. But we also knew that this was an inevitability. I mean, if you look over now, Bloomberg Terminal doesn't even price Bitcoin in the 100,000s anymore. It actually prices it now at 0.1 million. When it crosses, if it's below 100, it doesn't. But, so now it's like, we're not even looking at Bitcoin as 90,000. We're looking at it as 0.1 million. You know what I'm saying? But that's crazy to even think that that's how we're actually doing it. And again, like I was telling you about all these people that are starting to wake up, that are starting to realize Bitcoin, you have Charles Schwab saying that Bitcoin could possibly hit $500,000 to $1 million with government adoption, and that if you don't have any, at least get 10% of your portfolio into it.
What? Where does it go? What's your price target for Bitcoin?
So I think in the short term, we're going to see one of two cases. The first case is we're going to have some sideways action between 110 and downwards to 80, and we'll see some chop. The second scenario, and that will come either in the short term or in the medium term, is once we have the Bitcoin Act, which is currently under consideration, passed, where the U.S. government will be buying Bitcoin into its reserves, as well as other countries and other corporates for their treasury assets as well, we could see a 500K Bitcoin or $1 million Bitcoin. The sky is really the limit here.
And why? What would drive it there?
So Bitcoin is inherently a scarce asset. You only have 21 million Bitcoins. And the Bitcoin Act, for example, proposes buying 200,000 Bitcoins a year, which would significantly drive up the price as there's a finite supply.
And how much of a portfolio do you think should be allocated to cryptocurrency at this point? And has that changed now that we have a very pro-crypto president coming into office?
Absolutely. I think if you don't have at least 10% of your investment account in Bitcoin or Bitcoin-related assets, you're going to fall significantly behind.
And honestly, that's pretty crazy, 10%, right? I mean, we were just kind of, when I was talking about James Lavish, we were talking about maybe 3% of the global money. 10%? That's pretty incredible, guys. And the thing is, I feel like Trump kind of got the ball in motion, but realistically, regardless of what the U.S. does immediately, like David Towell says, these other countries are going to start buying, and it's going to push the price up.
On top of that, you've got a Congress that is controlled by Republicans that has already seen a bill that will establish a strategic reserve of Bitcoin for the U.S. government. Whether that gets passed or whether that goes forward, it doesn't matter. There are other countries around the world like Brazil, Poland, Russia, the state of Pennsylvania, who are also all considering strategic Bitcoin reserves, as are corporations around the country. And so this is a scarce asset, and I think that people, inclusive of the biggest investors around the world, sovereign wealth funds and nation states, will start to buy this and will have a difficult time keeping the price low, and therefore demand is going to totally outstrip supply.
And also, speaking of Donald Trump, this guy right here, David Sachs, he is the one that Trump has apparently just appointed as the crypto czar. And, here's a clip of him just talking about Bitcoin.
If you were in China and you had created your wealth in China or many, many other countries all over the world, and there were currency restrictions and controls, and the government was asserting more and more power, and we're putting business leaders under house arrest and seeking to put them under their thumb, you'd be trying to convert as much of your net worth into Bitcoin as possible so that if you ever had to flee the country, you wouldn't have to have dollars in your suitcase or gold bricks or diamonds. You'd simply have to have a password in your brain that you could access at any computer terminal when you got out of the country. That sort of digital gold is a phenomenal use case of Bitcoin. And the more oppressive all these countries become, the more they increase the value of that use case.
And also for people that say that Bitcoin is, only a speculative asset, nobody actually uses it for anything. Well, that's not true. I mean, the mayor of Miami and New York both got paid in Bitcoin. There's been several, like NFL players that have wanted to get their paycheck in Bitcoin, and Rumble is even saying that they're considering having that as some form of a payment for their creators.
This is a widely adopted currency, and contrasted to what your previous guest said, it is being used. It's being used multiple different ways. And one of the ways that I would like to see it being used is on Rumble, where creators can receive donations in BTC or Tether. They can receive donation or even get paid in BTC or Tether or US dollars, whatever they prefer. And that's kind of the way we're moving the company. And that's the future. We see it around the world.
So I wanted to just talk about what's going on in the price super quick. Obviously, what CryptoCon pointed out was, and I'm not familiar with this specifically, the Chikin, somebody correct me, money flow. I don't really know what this is, but if you do look at the data down here, it suggests that Bitcoin probably has a lot more in the tank than people think. So, you can see right here, if our zone is up here at around the top of this box, that could push us up to around the $220,000 area. Sorry about the wind, guys. My microphone that has the cover on it died, so if it's a little annoying to listen to, my apologies. I hope it's not too bad. But yeah, if we have a look at the analysis right here, like I pointed out in the beginning, this area right here is where we knew we were going to bounce around. So, if Bitcoin does break above the 1, the next area is right over here. You see if you guys could come all the way back here, the 2.618, which for me is about $155,000 target. So that doesn't mean that we can't have some, we can't have some turbulence within that point. But ultimately, on the daily, we're still not even coming. I mean, even after all this, right? This was like the big bad crash that happened. And yet we still got supported right here around the 97,000. We're not even dipping into, down here, we were actually even dipping into it, right? As it was consolidating. But up here, I mean, it's almost like we're starting to just, really take off. And like I said, my next level, if we come up here, Bitcoin, just this nice super clean channel could touch about 120, before maybe consolidating oh no, it fell from 120 back to 100. It's crashing, guys. And this massive cup and handle with all this momentum moving to the upside. So, again, a lot of the price targets are pointing to the upside. And, when I ended my video the other day, I feel like I was being really, because, okay, one thing I definitely say is if you have been in crypto and people that haven't bought crypto, you want to be like, I told you so, but, that's not fair. That's not right to do. And just understand that, everybody essentially ultimately buys Bitcoin at the price that they deserve. I mean, unless you're like a child that was just born today and you don't know about it. But if you've known about Bitcoin or you've heard about it in the last 10, 15 years and you've watched my channel, or someone who knows that you buy Bitcoin and they never bought, I mean, that sucks, but, again, you buy at the price that you deserve. So, but Andrew Tate, though, he was going off, and I think, let me just play this clip.
Now that Bitcoin's at $100,000, do you know what message I keep getting sent? Andrew, how do I make some money? I need Bitcoin. Andrew, can you motivate me? Why weren't you motivated when Bitcoin was 8,000? Why weren't you motivated when you stood a chance? Why weren't you motivated when I spoke before? Why must reality slap you in the face so brutally for you to wake up? You're the kind of dickhead who drives his car on the ice and slides all over the place and won't slow down. It's only when you hit a fucking tree and lose a leg do you sit there like a pirate. A dumb pirate with a wooden fucking leg. You sit there and go, I might slow down next time. You only learn lessons the hardest possible way. And here I am, respected as one of the greatest orators in the English language, trying my best to convince you to win. I'm not trying to convince you to commit suicide. I'm not trying to convince you to die. I'm not trying to convince you to lose. I'm trying to convince you to do something you should already want to fucking do, which is win. and I can't seem to get you to take action and move and work. This outcome was certain. You knew it. I knew it. And you still just laid in bed at night after an average day of meager efforts and slept like a fucking baby.
So that's it for me, guys. Thanks for coming back to the channel. Just a bit of a chill vibe clip today. You know, I do think Bitcoin's going to continue to move to the upside. Of course, we're going to have our turbulence. We're going to have our chop. But at the end of the day, there's so many more tailwinds right now than there are headwinds for Bitcoin. And I think it's only going to get better with time. So that being said, guys, again, thank you so much for coming back to the channel. If you guys do want to trade, I do recommend Blowfin. They're a really good exchange. Also, Femex is good as well. They have no KYC. And yeah, check out MetaSignals. And if you guys want to trade, check out these tutorials right here, right now. Get subscribed. I love you guys. Until next time, stay crypto. And of course, peace out.